are you all doing? Welcome back to the Dealer to Healer podcast with me, Liam Brown. I hope all you beautiful people are feeling amazing. Had a good week, a good weekend, whatever you've been up to. I hope it's been really, really good. I hope you're feeling great. I hope you're feeling empowered. I hope you're feeling joyful. Just like loads of amazing, magnificent things have been happening. Probably since I spoke to you last, actually. Like these yoga raves that I've been doing have been going amazing. I've kind of started setting up my own business with that. I'm doing a lot of abundance work. I've been reading that Jen Sincero book. I'm a badass at making money. I've been reading a book called The Soul Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Like putting your middle finger up to people, like inside your head, but not like in an aggressive kind of nasty way. But and just people are like giving you advice that you don't want or kind of telling you what you should be doing. It's just, give them that little middle digit, but just in your head, you know what I mean? Just you going, yeah, I'm going to listen to you, I'm not going to offend you, but also, like, I'm not going to take any notice. And I had it when I first started teaching yoga. A guy who was, like, tutoring me, he was like, you need to change your accent. You kind of, like, people can't understand you. You like, your accent's too strong. I was like, they'll just have to listen a bit better, won't they? I'm not changing my accent, and I find that with a lot of yoga teachers. A lot of yoga teachers kind of just like try and fit into this stereotype of a yoga teacher, use that stereotype yoga voice, and kind of just like try and copy a lot of teachers. And I think that's where I try and, like, you come into a Liam Brown class, like, that's, nobody can teach that like me because there's only one of me, and everybody's got that ability, like, to find their special quality and find their essence and bring that into their teaching. So it's just about empowering people to step into that, the truth of who they are. Don't copy anybody. Learn things and see the way people are doing stuff, but have your own take on it. So yes, I've had a lot of stuff like that going on. The yoga raves have just been like magnificent. I'm going to read you a couple of reviews I got left on my page. I had the best afternoon at yoga rave. I would definitely recommend it to anyone. The class was unique and such fun, and a really lovely bunch of people. I loved everything from Liam's poems, drinking cacao, the music and the energy. All made the class a truly enlightening experience, and I'm really looking forward to the next one. That was from Jodie Burnett. And then we've got one off Mandy Mills, and it says, Liam, what can I say? There aren't enough jubilant, epic, euphoric, wild and wonderful days like Sunday. I absolutely had a blast. Everything was spot on. It all felt so effortless and felt like the whole crowd just abandoned themselves completely. It felt pure on the one hand and hedonistic on the other, grounded through the feet and explosive through the crown. Flipping genius. All the yoga is there. I love the transformative chanting. Your poem at the beginning gave me goosebumps, and yet there was raving all at the same time, and the cacao was the perfect start to proceedings. Yes, Mandy, nice one for that. That, like, kind of just put the biggest smile on my face. So if you've in the Manchester area, I know a lot of people in Islington seem to be listening to my podcast. So if you are in Islington, in London, let yourself know, give me a shout, because I feel like the highest demographic of my listeners somehow seem to be in Islington, unless it's like some like undercover podcast like HQ there where they just listen to all your podcasts and there's loads of people listening to for what you're talking about, and then they're gonna give the information back to Facebook and like make a profile on you and then just like drone attack me in my little office in Withington in Manchester. But Islington people, make yourself known. I'm trying to bring Yoga Rave down to London soon as well. But just basically, I've set up a business with my partner, well, not my partner in like a romantic sense, with a business partner, my friend Joanna, and I just rang her and I was like, oh, what I do this, I want to go and tour with it. I want to go and do book signings. I want to kind of spread this message that we've been spreading and this kind of like positive energy that people are getting from the sessions, from the workshops. Like, people are just coming out of it and just loving it, like, oh, I feel alive, I feel amazing. So I want to spread that all over the country. And obviously the HQ is in Manchester, so everything's got to grow from here, and we've got bigger and bigger events coming up. Hit me up on my website, like liambrown.com. Any of my socials, my Facebook is Liam Brown with an E. I always had to say the E when I was getting arrested. It's Liam Brown with an E. And you can, on my website, you can buy tickets for the next event. I've also got the Yoga Rave 2020. So please do me a favor, if you get a chance, go onto Facebook, go onto Instagram and like Yoga Rave 2020, because we're just starting out and things are going amazing already. Lots of people are booking me. I've just had so many people ringing me up asking me to come and teach here, teach there. I was teaching in a school, in a college last week, and the reaction was incredible. I wasn't sure how it was going to go because, like, my taste in music is, a little bit older. I'm not sure what young people are into, like 16, 17 year olds, and they just loved it. They just all let go and just like danced, did the yoga, did the mantra, like blasted out the mantras, man. It was like, oh, it was sick. It was so good. And then the feedback I got the next day was like, the kids want you to come every week. They love the mantras. They said it made them feel something like they'd never felt before. I was like, wow, it's a really powerful thing. It gets people doing yoga who wouldn't really do it before. They see rave yoga and they're like, okay, that might be interesting. Let's check that out. And then another kid, like some feedback I got was he touched his toe. I'd like shown him how to touch his toes. I'd done a bit of like movement on him, and he touched his toes, and he'd never touched his toes before. And apparently, like the next day, he was just going screaming, "I touch my toes! I touch my toes!" and demonstrating again. So yeah, that was fantastic. A beautiful college in Warrington. I think it's called Priestley Performing Arts School. So yes, thank you, especially a big thank you to Nancy Surgeon who organised everything, and all the kids at Priestley Performing Arts School. Like, you're all beautiful, and it was an absolute pleasure teaching you, and it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. So yeah, the big thing at the moment is Yoga Rave 2020. My book is still selling well. It's getting more and more attention, which is just like phenomenal. Like, it just opens up my heart every time that something happens with my book. I'm going on BBC Manchester to do an interview. When's that? I think it's like the 11th of March. So I'll keep you posted about that. But yeah, everything's just flowing. Everything's fantastic. I am working my bollocks off. Like, I'm kind of having late nights, getting up early, going to work, doing things. It's busy, but it's just that, that birthing process is quite intense. And I'm also doing at the moment 21 Days of Abundance, the Deepak Chopra like WhatsApp group thing. I tried to do it in November, and I was releasing the book at the time, and I was just like, I could not fit it in. I was more hectic than I am now. And this time it come around, basically I've been booked to do like a Zen mornings. I'm doing a talk, meditation, a little bit of cacao, just a Q&A about my book. And the girl there, she was started talking about it. I was like, oh, I wanted to do that. And she was like, I've just started a group. I was like, okay, get me on the group. Like, so yeah, I've started doing that. I'm on day 9. I've done all the days. And on day 5, you have to start your own group up. So I probably messaged about 30, 40 people, added about 30, 40 people to it. And I think I've got like 10 participating, which is really, really beautiful, really amazing. And I'm just taking them through the steps. I don't really have to do a lot. I just post the each day's kind of activity and the thing that you've got to do with the meditation, and people just crack on with it. But there's some challenging things in there, man. Like, setting up your own group is challenging. You're like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, this sounds like a ball ache. Can I be arsed with this? It's a bit too much. So you get through that day, and then I think it was like day 7 or something, and you had to write out this kind of, I don't know what it was. It was like a kind of mantra, a better mantra about your belief systems around money. But you had to write it 10 times, and it took a good hour to do it. So you just like, you write a few and you're like, oh, this is going to take ages. But then you realize, like, anything that you want to do that's positive, any new business, new venture, new relationship, there becomes a point where it's like, oh, right, yeah, this is going to be hard work. Do I want to put in that hard work? Is it worth the hard work? So it's just kind of like embedding that in you. I think that was day 7. Just embedding that quality of actually, right, let's just do this. There's something better. It's not going to be as hard tomorrow. It's not going to be as like kind of time consuming. Let's just get through this bit. So it's kind of like, yeah, just a metaphor for life, really. There's always going to be them challenging bits in everything that we do that we don't like. Even the person who's living their dream, like being a footballer or, whatever it is. I always come back to football. That's my default because I grew up around football. I still watch football all the time. I love it. Everyone thinks because I'm a yogi, I don't like football anymore. There's certain things I don't like about it, but I'm a massive football fan. Love watching it. But yeah, just there must be things in their profession that they don't like, maybe going to the gym. Some of them don't like going to the gym. Some of them don't like the diet, There's always going to be little things that you've got to get over. Injuries, like, can I be bothered getting through this injury to be able to play again? It's just challenging things in every single profession. So yeah, this 21 days of abundance thing, if you know anyone doing it, try and get yourself on a group. It's very empowering. So yes, the Dealer to Healer book. I'm going to be on BBC Radio Manchester. I think that's on the 11th of March. I will let you know the exact time and date on my next podcast. Please listen to some of the other podcasts that we've had on. They've had amazing guests. I'm overwhelmed with the people who've had on the show. The next show is going to be me answering questions about my book and about various other things, mainly concentrating on the book. And the beautiful Xander Stewart is the person that's interviewing me, and his lovely, lovely girlfriend, Aurélie, the French lady. So it's going to be the first French lady on the show. Yes, so today's show, I've not even mentioned today's show. We've got a psychic with us today. So yeah, I went to Andrea's place and she did a little bit of healing on me. She kind of showed me what she does, did some cards on me. It kind of really resonated. She got instantly drawn to the area of my body where I have a lot of like blockages, like kind of in my Manipura chakra, like sort of just below the heart, like at the bottom of the rib cage on the chest. I kind of feel almost bloated here a lot, and she was instantly drawn to that, and she released a lot of energy. So yeah, I went round to a beautiful house, and we just chatted about what she gets up to. How'd you end up being a psychic? Do you know what I mean? Did you have to do GCSEs and MVQ at college? Where'd you get your certificate from? All that kind of stuff. And just this podcast, like, please listen to this podcast, because I laugh. Like, it's the hardest I've laughed in any of the podcasts. It was just like, it's just something that really tickled me. So yeah, have a listen, enjoy the show, and yeah, I'll hand it over. Hope you enjoy it. Take it easy. Peace. You to bless my soul. This is the Dealer to Healer podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Dealer to Healer podcast. I'm your host, Liam Brown. Thanks for joining us again. Got another tremendous guest for you today. She is a healer, a psychic. She does tarot cards. She has a normal job as well. She works with autistic children, so she's doing a lot of good in the community. She's got this kind of like motherly energy. I met her at a gathering about a month ago, and she was kind of like dressed like Little Red Riding Hood, and I was like, who's this lady? And kind of buzzed off her amazing energy and just kind of wanted to connect, and then found out a little bit more about her and realised she was doing like amazing work, and thought, it's a great person to have on my show. Maybe she has got some insights for my listeners and has got an amazing story behind the beautiful face. So without any more nonsense from me, I'd like to welcome my guest, Andrea Joy Adams. How are we doing?
I am doing really well. Thank you, Liam. Thank you for asking me to do this interview. I'm really, really pleased to help.
Like, we always want to know, what is your thing? Describe yourself and the work that you do.
I guess I would describe myself in the way of being a helper in the community, a helper of people who step forward to me, and in whatever sense that could be. As a healer, someone who assists people into their own empowerment through my natural gifts that I've been brought up through, if you like. So anybody that I come across in the community who steps forward and shows an interest in this kind of work, then I sometimes see that as a sign for something instigating a connection, which could be an empowerment for them and me.
Yeah.
So I would say that I like to think of myself as a fully fledged out there on the front line, going my day-to-day business, doing my normal job, but also what's a normal job? I take my healing gifts into my day-to-day work, but also work with people who come forward who've perhaps got issues that they want to clear up and want to look at alternative methods, looking at energetic ways of moving themselves forward.
So those two worlds cross over. It's not like I don't show that in my day job, like it comes across.
Yeah.
We say you work as a healer. What is your work as a healer?
My work as a healer is working with people to empower them through the healing work. So Reiki was the first port of call for me. I got the calling in about 93, and I decided to start to tap into the spiritual experiences that I'd already been having. I thought, I need to channel this. I need to find out a way that I can use what I feel that I have since I was a little girl to help others, to work with other people, and to offer my gifts and put them forward for people. So Reiki healing energy is a very intelligent energy, and I am a conduit for that. I'm a channel for that energy since I've done my training to master's level. So
you're a Reiki master.
I'm a Reiki master, but I would say that it's a bit of a label, and I bring the label across because a lot of people understand what Reiki is these days.
Yeah.
It's much more in the mainstream. It's in the NHS.
It's in the bloody NHS, it is. It's like, how mad is it? It's in the NHS and people still don't believe the shit.
I know. And, you know, somebody, I've got to just bring this in. Somebody called me from my agency that I work with the children I work with in the daytime. The agency worker called me today and she wanted to introduce herself to me. Within minutes, she was telling me she was a Reiki master and she's been working in schools, and she can see that the energy is getting out there into the mainstream. And we had such a fabulous conversation, because here's me thinking they were wanting me to dot the T's and cross the I's and whatever. What it turned out to be was an amazing conversation with yet another professional who's out there working in education, who's bringing the energies forward and seeing this alternative, this spiritual world, and how it's inspiring and how it's bringing people together to do really good work for vulnerable children, vulnerable adults in the community. So my work doesn't stop at working with people who come to me as a healer. My work goes out into the community. It's like it's a seamless job.
Yeah, because if you were just doing your work in your little space and people were coming to visit you in your house, it kind of, it spills out a little bit from the consciousness of those people who are coming to you. But if you're going about your day-to-day business and meeting people who aren't necessarily in that world, aren't necessarily connected, aren't necessarily thinking about anything to do with that, your energy and your influence is having an effect on them, and you're being able to spread that message to more people.
I would say that's totally correct. I would say that since my own personal empowerment has grown in the last couple of years, then this work has become seamless. And I don't see it as work. I see it as just being the authentic me, going out there and doing what I do. So in that humble space, as in I do my day job, and Reiki energy and the spiritual element of empowerment, working with the autistic children, that comes into it 100%. I believe I was divinely guided into that position as well, because of the connection with the mum of the child himself, the gifts that he brings forward, the spiritual gifts that he's shown. You know, this has all been divinely orchestrated because that family needed help, and I needed to be in a position where I was doing my work.
So what is this is like a child that you've been given specifically?
Yes, the agency, you know, I feel that so many things, once the spiritual path becomes clearer and clearer and your spiritual strength grows through experience and through working on yourself and working through your own shadow, the path becomes a lot clearer, and you're divinely guided into situations. You know, the universe orchestrates these situations for the betterment of everyone involved. So I know that the family's been helped, and they've helped me. You know, the golden nuggets that I've got out of it are just incredible. On a daily basis, you know, I'm going around and we're all giving each other therapy, and it's all about the love.
Totally all about the love, yeah, totally. Definitely. But like, how are they kind of relating to your, you know, Reiki, to your spiritualness? Like, is that kind of like, are they kind of a mainstream family, or are they open to that, or what?
Well, the interesting thing was, the agency said, we want you to go in, we think you're the right person. Now, the agency had never met me, and I thought, I need to go.
You're great for this job, guy.
So I thought, I need to take a bit of control of this situation, and I want to go and meet the child. I want to meet his family. to see whether it's right for me, to see whether it's right for him. So as soon as I walked in the house, there was sage burning, there was crystals, there was cards, and I was like...
Did you just think you'd come in your house?
I was like, I'm home, and I just knew there was something cooking up, and the universe had definitely conspired, because the mum had been in such a situation of desperation for a long time and not receiving the help and guidance. And she'd put a call out. She said she'd been asking for an angel for years. And I'm not saying I am the angel, but I'm saying that her call was answered, because, you know, I guess I do care on that level, and we have connected on that level. And believe me, this young person's mum has been an incredible help to me through situations. It's just been very, very divinely orchestrated. So as far as a day job goes, you know, it's fabulous. Yeah. And I get to do my work naturally through that.
Amazing. But I bet if I was to ask the woman now if you were her angel, I bet she'd say you were her angel, wouldn't she?
It'd be a bit embarrassing, but I would say that she's mine. She's mine too.
Got to own that. We're all angels,
I mean, we've done some really good work together, and I say work. We've done meditation together. Yeah. We've sent the energy forward to assist her son, who has got... You know, he's got so many beautiful talents and so much potential. And I see this gorgeous soul, like many of the children that I've worked with, the special needs children particularly that I've worked with over the years. They've got some incredible gifts to bring forward. And it's just about being in the right nurturing environment with the people around who can understand that. Yeah.
Do you think, like, with kind of autistic kids and what you say as special needs kids, do you think, like, because... it's said that we're born with these latent abilities, and they get like trained out of us, talked out of us by conditioning, by parents, by society, by school. And do you feel that maybe because the way people treat these children differently, that doesn't get eradicated? Or is it because they're deemed as special or autistic that they don't get affected by the conditioning? What would be your opinion on that?
Obviously, it's horses for courses. There's all sorts of different elements that, you know, gifts that any of... I mean, what is special needs anyway? I don't even think that's the right term these days. Children who don't fit in and don't conform tend to be put in pigeonholes, and that isn't necessarily always the right way to go about it, because there has to be a sense of equality that comes in. And I think there's not always the resources to deal with that. I think if we can get people to really go on a personalised approach and work with children in a way where they actually are being seen as individuals, that's the way to bring the best out of them. As far as conditioning, you know, the schools operate in a certain way, but it's not going to suit children who do not conform. And that's where children then begin to feel that they're failing, and their families are made to feel that they're failing. And yet it's the system that's not actually supporting them. You know, many schools say, oh, yeah, we're so inclusive, but they simply don't have the resources. And that's a real travesty to so many children who are not getting the support. I'm just glad that I can work with one and feel that I'm doing my bit, but I feel there's hundreds of thousands of other children. In fact, my mum called me today and said, I've got a friend and she's got an autistic son, and they're at the end of the tether and they don't know what to do. They're not getting support by the school, but schools have an obligation to help children within their care to make sure they do get the requirements that they need. So I feel very passionate about young people, actually, and I always have done. And people getting their rights, because everyone's an individual, everyone has skills and abilities, and it's about really seeing that and offering the support and finding the resources to allow children to feel like they're not weird or you know, incapable, when actually they've got some incredible talents. So I'll always champion children in that sense.
You know, for people like a little bit older who are first coming on a spiritual path, it's as if we're kind of trying to eradicate the conditioning and go back to the innocence and the bliss that we had before we were changed, when we did understand energy, when we did have like a, you know, an imaginary friend, when we could be creative and make up stories and play, and we kind of lose that. And then when you start doing a little bit of work on yourself, and you're trying to get back to that in a lot of ways, you start going to dance, and it doesn't have to be inebriated and on drugs and pissed, you know what I mean? It can be a nice expressive thing, and kids, more than anything, when they're dancing, they're being expressive. They're not, they're not trying to fit in. They're not, that pure innocence of just connecting to music and moving.
I think there's so much to be said for that, and that's where the arts therapies are so important. I've done a lot of work in the past, when I worked as a community officer in a school. One of the best jobs that I was ever given. I was gifted that job, where I was able to organise projects for young people. I was given a budget of 20 grand a year to bring artists into the school, to take children out of the school. We took them to Barcelona. We took them on a singing tour. There was so much artistic freedom that we were allowed to bring back. And I think the arts need to really be pushed forward in education, because it frees the mind, it creates a therapy, and all children are inclusive within that. It's not the absolute doctrination of the core subjects that my son was bringing home spellings when he was 6 or 7 years old that he didn't even know what the meaning of the spelling was. It was absolutely pointless exercises that you just grin and bear it. But there needs to, in my opinion, the arts is a massive healing tool, and it needs to be implemented for all children. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, if you had £1 million, what would you do? And I said I would set up a school for all children who are perhaps feeling like they don't fit in to what's expected of them. And I would set it up for them to be able to access the arts as a free resource, because it's a life changer, it's a game changer. I totally advocate the arts as a healer.
But it's kind of frowned upon in that system in a lot of ways, because in most mainstream schools it's kind of like, well, that's not going to be a proper job, and we're trying to churn out
worker bees.
9-to-5ers. That's the system. That's the conveyor belt is trying to create those people, and and what job is going to make me the most money, not what do I want to do in my heart, what do I feel destined to do, what do I feel passionate about. It's like,
well, I was actually given an opportunity to go to schools in Argentina as part of this job where I worked as a community officer about 10 years ago. I was given I went to Argentina for 6 weeks representing the UK as an advocate for education, and I visited loads of different schools. I looked at alternative provisions. I looked at the way that children were struggling with resources and how happy they were over there in those kind of situations. But I was looking a lot, when I had my own child, at alternative education, looking at Montessori, looking at Steiner schools. Now, one of the most incredible things that happened to me in Argentina was that the divine, if you like, guided me to meet Rudolf Steiner's granddaughter, which was like such a massive pivotal moment for me, because I was so interested in, well, how can education be really used to bring young people forward and really access their talents without being indoctrinated in what the government think they should be doing as worker bees. What about all this massive creativity that children have? What about the freedom that you have as a child?
Yeah.
Because I think one of my greatest wounds was a 7-year-old who had her creativity crushed when she didn't paint a picture correctly, and she was sent to the headmaster's office. How dare you? I know, and I was given the slipper at 7 years old, very hard on the backside, by the headmaster, who nobody ever told my parents it happened. But
I was just standard in them days, wasn't it? Was that kind of like...
them days?
No, but...
I'm not that old.
Yeah, but
that
it didn't happen
79.
in my days.
Yeah.
Stop when I went to school.
Well, I'm showing my age now, but 1979, yeah, I was whacked. Yeah. And I mean, these things come along to give you a bit of a wake-up call, and to put you down at the time, actually. it could have actually eradicated any creativity that it had left in me.
Yeah.
I don't think it did me too much good for a few years, because I think I went very much into my own shell. But you find your way back on the path in the end. I'm sure that everyone does.
Well, some people don't. Some things like that for some people can just like destroy it and never pick up a paintbrush again.
Well, I don't know whatever happened to me. Somehow I got through that. I remember doing my GCSE art and being totally uninspired by that as a curriculum, as a model of examination. There was nothing artistic about doing art at school. I didn't feel that at all. So I took myself to art college and then university, and had some quite good experiences through that. But I don't suppose the headmaster could have done me that much harm, really. But it was quite a severe punishment, really, for a 7-year-old to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey ho.
And if you remember it, it's
I
pretty
do
big.
remember it. Yeah, I do remember it. But do you know something that made me realise that we carry these energies from our parents was a very surprising tale. I was talking to my dad in a pub for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I was relaying the story about me as a 7-year-old, that he'd never heard this story. And I said, Dad, this is what happened to me. I was whacked because I didn't do the correct picture. It turned black on, I was painting a picture. All the colours went very muddy because I just, this was my experimentation, and it was seen as the wrong thing to do. So I was sent, and I was hit with a slipper by the headmaster. And my dad just looked at me in shock, and then he said, do you know what? That exact same situation happened to him at school.
Yeah.
And he relayed back to me how he had painted a picture not correctly, and he had to sit in a corner with a dunce's hat. So I was like, oh my God,
Jesus,
energy
man.
carries through. And
yeah.
it proved it to me. I was so shocked. I was, oh my goodness, I never knew that about my dad.
Yeah.
And now he knows that it's what happened to me also.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to look at where we've come from to see the pattern of how energy works.
Yeah.
And now I've identified it as a healer and as someone who has the tools to heal myself. I don't have to see my son going through those things.
Yeah.
I don't have to, because this is where it stops. And I think people can really, if you look back at your own behaviours or situations of things that have happened, it can often come through family trauma or family ancestral history. And we are equipped now in these days to be able to access much more of our own awareness. If, there's so many healers about, there's so many people around us who can assist us on our path.
Yeah.
And people are waking up to these kind of situations and bettering themselves through their own healing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of family trauma counselling and stuff now. And what's that?
IFS.
IFS, yes. Lewis Powell was talking about that on his show. And I don't know an awful lot about it, but it's probably something that I should investigate.
I've thought about investigating this as well. Is it called family constellations as well?
I've not heard
Is that
that
a
one.
similar one?
IFS is the one that I've heard about. But family constellation sounds even better. It sounds even more cosmic.
Well, family constellation.
I'm up for that. It's got a constellation in the name. Yeah, sold. I'll have 2.
Right, we'll have some of that. Well, sometimes spirit will just give you the information like it did with my dad.
Yeah.
And then the penny dropped, and I thought, my dad, through the generational, through the choices he's made, there's no blame or anything like that, but he wasn't able to heal that particular element of that particular situation that happened to him. So somehow it passed on to me, the almost exact same situation, which I found incredible. But I now have the tools to do that. I think many of us are finding the awareness and the consciousness within ourselves to actually investigate and to invest in ourselves and really look at, this pattern of behaviour is this, or there's a lot of information out there. I think the only thing is to be discerning about where you choose to go and who you choose to heal with. But I think there's a lot of information. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in self-betterment and empowerment. But family constellations, from what I remember reading about, you go into a room, there's people there who are there to assist you at that time. And those people, you share your story, your family story with those people, and those people take on a role.
Okay.
So a lady that's will act as your mum. There's a guy that will act as your dad. There's other people who could be your siblings, and they then change the conversations, they change the situations, and whether they're trained actors in that or however, there's obviously a lot more detail to that, but they can literally shift you out of old patterning beliefs because they're taking on these roles. It's very expertly done, and that's a very, very basic description of it. But what I'm saying is there's some incredible work going on, and people have got every opportunity to.
That sounds like a massive thing. It's kind of like an art installation. It's like a project, isn't it? It's not like just going to sit in a room and having a bit of therapy. It's like someone playing your mum, someone playing your dad. Or is it one actor plays them all?
Oh, I think there's different actors. Hopefully, I mean, God, that's a big
I'd mess
job
your
for
head
one
up
man.
even more, wouldn't it? If
Oh
it was
my
like one man
gosh.
played all the me auntie, me manner. God, I
Different
don't know.
wigs and
I don't know who he
glasses.
is now.
Oh my gosh, that would be so crazy.
Yeah. No, but we're at a blessed time in humanity, in our society, where we've got all these options and the awareness of these things. Like, obviously the internet is bringing a lot more awareness to what we can access and what we can tap into, which is epic.
100%. And when you look on YouTube, there are so many choices of readers, healers, people who are coming forward and speaking wise words and assisting. You don't have to get upset with people you don't resonate with. You just find the right people that you do resonate with, and then you follow them. And then if you get tired of that, you move on to, it's just about that bit of discernment, because we're all on a path and we're all moving forward in one way or the other. I think a lot of people are reaching out. Like I have clients who come forward who that they're looking for, well, what's my next step? What am I doing with my life? Where's this taking me? So that's the way I work. I work in sort of in response to any requests that I get. I don't necessarily go out looking for clients. I just wait for the universe to deliver. And that's how most of the people who've come forward to me, that's how it's worked. I haven't I've just had that inspiration to start chatting to someone, and then suddenly the healing work appears. Kind of like how it happened this evening with you, Liam, isn't it?
I know, that's amazing. So for that, like, basically what happened when I rocked up at Andrea's was she gave me some amazing hearty soup, which was epic. We sat down, had some soup and a cup of tea. I was gagging for a cup of tea. I hadn't had any almond milk at my house all day. It was a travesty. It was like a middle class major problem. I've got no almond milk. What am I going to do? I can't even have a cup of tea. And then we just, the thing was we were going to do a little bit of a reading before the show.
That's right.
And so we sat down and Andrea connected into my energy and we started to have a little conversation, and then some things came up where she said, I've got to do some healing on you, and there's something that needs to come out, that your abundance is being blocked by something. There's just one thing that needs to pop. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, I thought she was avoiding the podcast because she was nervous. I was like, you're not getting away with it, lady. You're still going to talk to me. You will still talk. You'll still tell us everything. So, and then basically we ended up she put her hands on me. We had a healing session. And it was incredible. Like, something popped out of my solar plexus straight away. And, like, I wasn't expecting to come round and do that. It just kind of, it happened organically.
I think this is it. I think it's just trusting that you go into the right spaces at the right time with the right people. It's definitely been a level of trust in that way for me over the past 6 months. But with yourself, sitting here, doing some cards together, tuning in, doing a meditation together, bringing that energy forward, this is what was flagged up, and this is part of our evening, our evening together, where we're all looking for the next step forward, aren't we? We're all looking for our, where do we go next? How can I walk best forward, put my best foot forward? So hopefully you feel a bit lighter now. You've had your solar plexus reinstated.
Yes, with a little help from our friends.
A little friends that came along and got the golden thread out.
It was incredible, because that's the space that I've been, I have I feel like I have blockages there. I never understood it, what it was. And just to have a feeling of release and a feeling of healing and fixing and it being realigned just felt incredible. So yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And do you know what gives access to that is the fact that we haven't come here with a time restraint. When we go into stuff without a time restraint and we open ourselves up to what can happen, rather than going, I've got half an hour here. I need to do one. Do you know what I mean? Like most people's lives are, I've got half an hour here, I've got an hour here, then I've got to go here, then I've got to do that. Sometimes when we just go somewhere and we just like open ourselves up to the universe, to the universal energies.
Absolutely.
Like I did it on Saturday going into Manchester. Like Jesus Christ, the people that I met was just incredible. And do you know what? When I'm at home and when I'm in Manchester, I don't do that. Whereas when I'm traveling or when I'm hitchhiking, I'm open to the universe and I'm like, everything gets provided for me. But when I'm in Manchester, I'm in my own little thing. Go and see my family, go and teach yoga, go and do this. I'm not meeting random people who I'm like, whoa, like I was supposed to meet you, man. That's incredible. Like I sat next to two girls in a cafe the other day and I thought, I was there with my book and they were eating and I was like, right, do you know like that feeling when you sat next to someone and you want to ask them out or something and you're like, oh well, I'll leave you for a second and then maybe it was that same feeling, but it wasn't like I wanted to ask either of these girls out. I just wanted to tell them about my book.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll leave it till they're kind of like maybe leaving and then I'll bring it up. And they were just about to leave and I was like, right, you got to do it now, do it. The little head telling me that, and a part of me's going, no, just like be a bit scared. And I was like, excuse me, girls, just want to give you my book. Have a look at it. It's on Amazon. It's number one seller, whatever. And then the girl read the book. She went, oh my God. She was like, just before you sat down there, we were talking about ayahuasca and how we wanted to do ayahuasca. And I was like, are you taking a piss? And they were like, no. We said we both want to do ayahuasca, but we're scared. I was like, you need to read my book. And then we got chatting a bit more, and they both work in marketing. And like they were like, do you want us to have a look at your project and see where you can kind of push it a bit? And I was just like,
wow.
Do you know what I mean? I nearly bottled out of that conversation. So it's like that being that,
trusting,
not letting those moments go.
Exactly. And that's the way that when I was describing earlier about how I go about my seamless existence, which by the way is very humble. It's not like trying to look for anything out of the ordinary, just going about my business, just using my instincts wherever I turn up at.
Yeah.
Talk to the most incredible people. I met a lady in a charity shop who was 96 years old, going back a few months ago. Turns out she was a nurse in the Second World War in Wythenshawe. Next thing I know, I invited her into my son's school, my son was doing a project about World War II.
Yeah.
And she was able to go in and speak to the children. She was such a sweet, lovely, beautiful lady. She took pictures of when she was a nurse. The children were able to meet someone who was actually in the war. And that was just through a random meeting.
Totally.
So there's been so many instances like that, and the magic that unfolds when I feel like I'm in a state of like my heart's opening, like, and I'm just on a roll in my life, just the last 6 months or even a year, actually.
Boom.
It does feel like that. And I don't know what, it's been a set of circumstances, whatever has got me to this point. It does feel like a lot of us are, really stepping up into our fullness, and it just keeps getting more and more beautiful and full. And all the chemistry that happens between people, when you see it as a divinely orchestrated existence, it then really does become divine. The magic is everywhere, and I teach my son this all the time. I want him to have a good life. I want him to see the magic in everything. No matter how much money we've got, no matter what we've got around us, we can create beauty and we can see beauty everywhere.
There's magic in everything, and even them human connections are like, wow. Incredible to be vibrating at that frequency where you're attracting that stuff, and then you've got the stories and like, but it's mad how we're still surprised by it. We're still like, wow, in this place of wonderment, but I don't ever want to get out of that.
Isn't it nice to be in awe?
Totally. But sometimes that when you're on your journey, like when I first opened to like spirituality, and it was all magic, and I was just like, wow, everything, wow, like the next thing, wow, and then a few years down the line, you're like, where's that magic gone? Where's that wonderment gone? And sometimes you lose it a little bit, but it's still there.
It's still there.
It's still there, man. It's still always vibrating around you. Sometimes it's just like things you've got to go through, or there's a fog that you've got to clear. Do you know what I mean? Like you saying you just had an amazing 6 months. Before that, I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were going through some sort of clearing or some sort of...
I would say so, yeah. I would say so. It started actually a year ago where I was working with a little autistic boy, a different child, and unfortunately I incurred I had some incredible experiences with this little boy, as in he was not able to verbally communicate particularly well. He was very physically active and very fit. He's only 6 years old, but the heart connection that we had and the communication, it was never something that you could write in a report, you know, for the school, because nobody would understand that. But I knew I was divinely guided to work with that family. But unfortunately, I incurred an injury from that situation, so I had to step away from the job. And for about 4 or 5 months, I was out without work. I felt really useless. I felt worthless. I felt like, you know, with being without work and being in a situation of struggling and thinking, where's my path? Where's my existence? Of course, I always had the healing around me, but I really lost quite a lot within that, of my own confidence within that time. But it was about April, May time that I started to pick everything back up again. But it just seemed to take such a long time, and I became quite frustrated with that. But I think I just had to work a lot of things out of my system. So I think that spiraled me about a year ago. But then, like I say, 6-8 months ago, it all started picking up again. Where I could meet somebody one day, the next day I'd be going and meeting their parents and doing, just from sitting and talking to one of my friend's mums who I'd just met, the ancestral clearing that went on in the room. And it was just about the presence of the three of us sitting in a room together. You know, when she introduced me to her mum, and, you know, I just sat with her and showed that I'd cared actually to be there. What actually then occurred was clearing on a level that was really interesting. My friend couldn't thank me enough, because suddenly they were making amends and friends back with her mum after like years of not being able to connect. I'm not saying this is me. What I'm saying is I hold space for others to heal within themselves. And I always make sure that any of my clients, they always understand that it's totally reciprocal as well. So whatever they receive, I'm also receiving.
I tell all my yoga students, I'm like, we all got superpowers, man. We've all got superpowers, and we just need to try to figure out what they are. And sometimes you might not even figure it out till you're 80. Do you know what I mean? But eventually it comes, and it comes at the perfect time.
So I feel that this is the path now for me. I feel it'll only get stronger and stronger. And, you know, the main thing is that it's about enjoying life and really seeing the magic in life and the innocence of life. I just wake up each day and think, well, here's something new. What's going to happen today?
What's going to happen?
It is very, it's an open book every day.
I say, do you know what I say every day?
What?
Thy will be done this day. Today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this day. Miracle shall follow miracle, and wonder shall never cease. That's one of my...
have to write that down.
Me morning mantras, amongst other things. And I love money, and money loves me.
Yes, money does love you. Money loves you a lot.
And seeing like money is like, you know, lots of people go, oh, money's evil, money's this, and it's bad connotations, and it's usually for us poor people to well, not poor, but, you know, when you grow up in a working class environment, it's probably so that you don't feel bad about not having everything that you should have. So it's like, well, money's evil, or rich people are dicks, you know what I mean? It's actually, well, no, because I can still be the same person but have £10 million in my bank account. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I just want a Jeep Wrangler though, for some reason. I don't even like cars, man, but I see a Jeep Wrangler and I'm like, oh, I like that one.
You're going to get denim seats as well, aren't you?
No, I don't know. I want, do you know what? I want a Jeep Wrangler, and I want a gold Proton. So I've got a Proton tattoo on my arm.
A gold
See that?
Proton?
It's a Proton
What's
tattoo.
The Proton?
Proton is a Malaysian car that most people think it looks like a bag of shit, but it's actually like, looks like kind of like Back to the Future car.
Oh, okay.
So kids would always come up to me. So it was like I just had one, but I had to get it scrapped before I went to Australia at the start of this year. And kids would come up to me and they go, "Your car's so cool," because there's no other cars like it on the road. You know what I mean? It's a proper old banger.
Oh my
proper
gosh.
like square shaped. You know what I mean? With a big bonnet, and I love
Was
it.
it gold?
No, mine was silver, but I want a gold one. That's what I mean. I want a Jeep Wrangler and a gold Proton. Like,
You're just gonna
I'm
be
happy.
the classiest guy in like in the rich bit, aren't you? Oh my god.
Yeah, but
Well, no, I tell you, I just want a camper van. A nice split screen camper van.
Oh, nice, sexy.
Yeah, I love.
I used to have I had a VW Transporter. Then I had a Volkswagen Caravelle, 1984, burgundy.
I had a Caravelle as
fit.
well.
It was so fit.
It was actually a Joker. It's called the Joker, right?
Was it?
Do you remember the Joker one?
No.
Got its own central heating and everything in that.
Yeah.
I love camper vans, and I'd love that one of them for me and my kid to go off to Watergate Bay in Newquay.
Write it down. Get it on your vision board.
It's on my vision board.
Listen to the Gina Swire. Listen to my Gina Swire podcast. Like, she's like the manifestation queen. She's next level. And anyone who's listening, listen to that and do the little courses she's got, because it's incredible.
Back in 2007, 2008, I was coming out of my first divorce, and I met a man called Alan, who was a chairman of a Rotary Club. Him and his lovely wife basically allowed me to look after their beautiful home while they went off travelling. And in return for that, they looked after my dog. Well, I was literally given a trip, all expenses paid, to go to Argentina. And on that trip, because while I was in my first marriage, there was lots of good things about it, but there's like a restrictive feeling of like, how am I going to travel? You know, I really want to travel, but I don't know how I'm going to do that. Alan comes along, he says, how about you go to Argentina for 6 weeks? We'll pay for everything. You can go whitewater rafting. You can fly an aircraft over the Andes. You can go on a gaucho ranch. You can meet all these people. You can do this. You can do that. We'll pay for everything.
Yeah.
You know, that just landed on my lap.
Yeah.
And it was because of the community. I really feel that he just recognised something in me. And he was a very, very intuitive man. He's not with us anymore. But I would never forget him, because he offered me such a massive opportunity. And actually on the way home, I met my second husband on the plane. So then destiny turned me towards Manchester.
Shit, man.
And I ended up in Manchester simply because of
Alan.
God bless you, Alan. Rest in peace, Alan.
I wouldn't be here now without Alan, probably.
I wouldn't be here.
No.
My son wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You know, Alan turned the course of history for me.
Did Alan turn you into Joy Rider?
No.
Oh, that was before. So Alan's not.
No, Alan
being a
Alan
Joy
wasn't
Rider.
an ex-husband. No, Alan was one of those.
No,
people.
but was the husband that you met with the name Ryder? Or was that the first one? Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, we get mixed up with husbands. I have that many. No, but it's a funny story, because like I remember it was that 2007, 2008, destiny changed. And I remember trail finders coming through the door when I was with my first husband, and I was just like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to go to these incredible places? You know, my first ex, he wouldn't go out the door on holiday because he didn't like coming back to work. It's like,
I'll stay here at work, because if I leave and it's dead good, I'll be dead upset when I have to come back. So I won't do that good bit. I'll just stay in this misery.
Like holidays because
that's a brilliant mindset, innit? Imagine if the whole world was like that.
The thing is, he was really good at a lot of things, but that was just a bit of a strange one. And I was thinking, he's never going to come on a big trip abroad with me.
Because it'll be really bad when he goes back to work.
I tell you what, it's one thing meeting him, it's another thing marrying him.
Sorry, that's killed me. Oh, sorry.
No, it's
ladies
fine.
and gentlemen.
It's fine.
Some things kill me.
It's okay. You know, I can laugh about my first marriage now. It was, You have to go through these chapters in your life, clearly. And Alan sorted that one out because
cheers, Alan.
Cheers, Alan. You got me to Argentina, and the school I was working for at the time, where I was doing this community work, I went to see the head, and I said, "This opportunity's come. Can you let me go for 6 weeks? You've got to go. You've got to go, Andrea. There's no way you definitely." Support I was given was all these doors were flinging open, and suddenly I was in South America, and it was just like mind blowing. One of the most amazing things we went into. We drove for thousands of miles around the country in that 6 weeks, probably a few thousand miles. And at one point, one of the guides said to me, he says, "You do Reiki?" And I was like, yeah. He says, "Would you like to meet a real shaman who lives in the mountains?" Oh, yeah, I think we'll do that. So they completely diverted where the coach was going, ended up near to a town where Brad Pitt had shot a film, and it's one of the most highly mysterious parts of the Andes where a lot of UFO sightings. It's like really, really mysterious area. Took us up into the mountains, and we met this shaman who had 2 wives, and he was living in the hills.
Go on, lad.
Yeah, and we got taken into these rocks, and there was all these pictures of UFOs all over the rocks.
Wow.
It was like outrageous, and these cave paintings, literally made by the indigenous people who were living there at the time, and of what they were seeing. We did a meditation in the rocks. It was all translated. It was so magical. I got some photos with the shaman, but I got my adventure, and I'd been dreaming about that for years.
Amazing.
And it landed on my lap, and I even got paid through the school for not being there.
Epic.
I was like, you couldn't make this up.
Yeah,
what happened then? It was like I was getting quite a bit of karma back from not having too many holidays with my first husband.
We'll give them you all at once. So you just have one big, massive, epic, tremendous holiday.
I'm waiting for the next one, because I would like to take my son to South America. I think take him out of school, get him out of the system for a bit.
Yeah.
I think they'll learn a lot more when they're out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. India, South America, places just like almost like different planets in a way. It's just you learn a lot being in those places and connecting with indigenous.
Some incredible experiences, and I won't forget it. I won't forget it at all.
So, right, you went and did your Reiki.
Yes, I did.
So I heard you say earlier, I had these abilities before, and I needed to sort of hone them. What was going on before then that you did your Reiki? What were the signs in your own self that you were like, oh, I'm a bit weird, or I'm a bit different? Yeah, what made you go and explore Reiki?
I think I had this inner thirst for the unknown and the mysteries of the world. I'd had a few experiences where I'd heard sounds, and I'd seen lights flashing on a wall that really shouldn't have been there, and my sister was little at the time, and she identified the same colours. I started to realise that I was working with something was with me that was beyond myself as a little girl growing up, and telepathic sort of experiences with friends, and getting messages sent through into my brain when there was actually nobody there, hearing voices.
Yeah.
And I guess I got into my mid-20s and decided that I wanted to start to explore the spiritual world, but I wouldn't tell anybody about it. I kind of snuck off to a little spiritual group.
Yeah.
I told people I was going meditating, because I think I felt
even that's big though. In them days.
It was in them days, in the 90s. In the 90s, it was a big thing. I didn't want anybody to ridicule me.
Yeah.
And I was with my first husband then, and
did he know?
I don't think I told him I was going to. I think I said I was going to do some meditation.
Yeah.
Even though his mum was quite spiritual, and I was very close to her.
Yeah.
I remember going to this group and being a little bit nervous about it, but there was different people in different corners of the room. One guy was doing Reiki, another person was reading these ribbons, spiritual coloured ribbons. There was people doing different things, so you kind of could circulate round and try different things out. And I just remember seeing quite a lot and thinking, wow, I'm already kind of spiritually picking up quite a lot here. I need to follow this up. I need to get into Reiki and I need to find out why I'm being drawn to this energy. 2003 is when I did my first Reiki attunement.
Yeah.
And, I was able to visualize some really interesting energies as my eyes were closed and I was being attuned. I could feel like a breeze across my face. I was thinking, this is very tangible now. It's become a tangible experience for me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long before I did Reiki 2.
Yeah, because you question it at first, don't you? Part of you's like, is this just bullshit, don't you? And you kind of like, is this real?
I wanted to lap it up.
Did you?
I was really believing
I was
it.
really skeptical, but then things happened and I was like, okay, yeah, I believe this now.
I did it in a monastery as well. My first attunement was in a monastery and it was so atmospheric. Wow. It was beautiful. I loved that. It was Sekhem Reiki, which is a certain kind of Reiki to do with Egyptian mythology.
Yeah.
It was very beautiful. Since then, I've kind of adjusted the way that I do my healing. I do call it Reiki energy for anybody that's asking on a general level, but any people that I work with who come and work personally with me, I will explain that the energy will adjust to them, and all sorts of things can come up through that. I see Reiki as being an intelligent basis for my work.
Yeah.
But whatever else comes through it, because often I can see people's past lives, wounding, healing, ancestral trauma. It really is whatever's right and bespoke for that person in the session. Your question was, how did I actually get into it? I just got the calling that I really wanted to work with people and offer. And actually, I didn't realise how much of a learning and growth experience it would be for me. But I had a lot to clear at that time. I didn't realise how much it would personally affect me. I went into it feeling, right, I really want to help people. I want to be the nurturer, the carer.
The signs were there as a child. It wasn't like you just got into your 20s. Like for a lot of people, it's your Saturn returns. It's when you get into your late 20s, you start having being more aware of stuff or something traumatic happens. But for you, it was like child.
It was child. My dad relayed a story back to me just a few years ago where he said that I was a little 18-month-old girl playing with my toys in the middle of a room, and he came into the room looking for the name in an address book of a friend, but he couldn't remember the name. He needed to ring this guy, and he was looking for this guy's name in the address book, the phone book, and suddenly out of nowhere I actually spoke the name, and he said it was John Smith. And it could well have been John Smith, whether he just used that as an example. But he said I genuinely came out with that name out of thin air, and he was really shocked because obviously I was a little child who was just learning to talk at that time.
Yeah.
But from what my mum,
I've got a witch.
Yeah,
there's a witch in my house.
I was given that by spirit, by the guides, whatever it was. My dad recognised that, and I think my mum and dad have both got gifts. My mum saw, what she describes as extraterrestrials coming into her bedroom and putting glasses on all the family. They're all in their robes, and she's seen deceased family members in cupboards and stuff like that when she was a little girl.
Yeah.
But both my parents didn't take that forward, which is fine. It was just for me to do that, play that role. Because my brother and sister are not interested in any of this.
Yeah.
I'm the oddball.
Yeah.
I'm the one. I remember going into school when it was like you could do a stand and raise money. I'd always take a crystal ball in.
Wicked.
And cards.
At school?
So
you was the weirdo at school,
I was the weirdo, but I always had a weirdo friend as well.
Okay.
So it wasn't just me. But I remember dressing up, not having any issues with actually doing that.
That's wicked, though, that you could own that,
I was owning it, actually. I was really owning it.
That's next level. Because a lot of people just kind of hide that. I still know people now that I know personally who've got a lot of gifts that they don't feel like they want to do anything with it, and that's their choice. But sometimes I'm like, is it a waste? But I guess we've all got the gifts in a way. We've all got hidden gifts that we're not all expressing, or sometimes. But then knowing that you've got them and then not using them, I'm always a bit like, oh well.
I think for me, it's a personal responsibility to be able to bring this forward. This is my role, and I do take it seriously, and I love my work. I love to be able to see people like totally fly off into the distance with whatever they've gained from their experience, which I always make sure that they realise that they have totally instigated it themselves. Like whenever anyone works in the space with me, and when I say works, I mean sits in space with me, I explain, look, I'm holding space, but your soul has agreed to be in this space. We're working with God, spirit, great oneness, whatever you want to call it. It's a three-way thing. And when that energy starts working as a three-way thing, we all benefit. So for me to see people empowered and walk off into their lives feeling much happier, because of that, you know, because I do get some really nice feedback.
Super rewarding.
You know, it's not about ego. It's totally about feeling that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Come from a loving heart.
But it's nice to get that confirmation sometimes.
It's lovely.
It's like it's having a positive thing. Like I
even putting it on Facebook sometimes. I'm like, I want people to know what's available. And blowing my own trumpet is like.
We struggle with that. It's an English thing as well. It's a very English thing. Like we struggle with like, you know, bigging ourselves up. It's a difficult thing to overcome. Like I've had a few messages recently and I've not shared them, but like maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I should.
What's this? What have your messages?
No, just messages off people about like my work and about things that I've been doing that have like empowered them or they thought were amazing. And yeah, maybe I'll get round to sharing them at some point. I'm just busy at the moment. I probably will. I don't know.
I shared some a few days ago. You know, I do have that kind of trepidation, but I think, no, this is the fruits of my labours. You know, I've been working in this for like 20 years now. It's about time. It's about time, but it's only now that I feel the confidence and the empowerment. The healer's path, you know, it has its challenges and it has its ups and downs, and it can take a long time to get to the point of where the fruits start coming in. But I think there's a really good lesson in that. It's like, you know, the wisdom that you gain. I couldn't have possibly been this heart opened and feeling this good in my 20s. Well, it obviously wasn't meant to be, because I would have been there doing that.
But there's like that's the like the path of a healer or somebody who's like transforming. There's gonna be like multiple metamorphoses, you know what I mean, multiple transformations. So there's gonna be more like you were when you were talking about your bad times before, and it's like when you're in them, it's like it will pass. When you're in it, you're like, oh shit, this is forever. Like I'm fucked. Like this is not gonna pass. But really you have to keep. It is gonna pass, innit? Like you know it is, and you now know when it first happens. You don't know that it's gonna pass, but then when it's happened a few times, you're like, okay, I'm just going through a process. I'm going through some healing. I'm going through a transition. Like this for me, when the bad stuff happens again, or like I'm getting a form of depression, or I'm feeling low, or stuff doesn't seem to be going for me. For me, it's like a massive kick up the arse. It's like, right, something needs changing. There's something that's not right. And a lot of my friends are like, you're always trying to fix something. Yeah.
And
this shit's broke. I'm gonna fix it. I'm not one of them people who sits, you know, with a load of broken things in my shed. I'll get them out and fix them or throw them away. Do you know what I mean? I'm not one of them people.
That's the difference between you and them, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's no judgment, because, you know, people can only move themselves forward if they're, you know, in that, you know, that mindset of like, I want to empower myself, I want to move my life forward. When people come to me, very often they are in quite dark spaces, but it's really beautiful to be able to bring my own wisdom and my own experience forward. And offer them some light and hope. Sometimes you don't realise the impact of what you're saying. Totally. You think, oh, I think this all the time, but other people don't. And it's so important that there's you know, you communicate that as a healer. And you communicate these little bits of wisdom that you think, oh, it's a bit corny or a bit like, you know, cheesy, but I think people really get something out of it. Somebody messaged me the other day, a woman who's got 6,000 followers on Instagram. She says, I don't know why, Andrea, says, you've really jumped out at me. I'm so inspired by your page. She gave me tips on hashtagging, which I've been rubbish at. And she gave me all these tips. She says, you've got such positive energy. I'm not into healing or anything like that. But now me and her are becoming friends. And like, I think we might even do a bit of work together where we're both going out into the community and doing little podcasts and stuff like that. But for some reason, somebody was really inspired by my page. And You just think you're going about doing your business, being yourself.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting, isn't it, when people have that response to you?
And humbling and
it's
like
nice.
rewarding and like
it's nice because I do sit in a humble space with it. I never think, oh, look at me. I'm very far from it. It's taken me ages to come out of my box.
Yeah.
Ages. But this
you're out of it, you're shining, doing amazing work, helping loads of people. And like you say, like most people come and go for a reading or go for healing when they're in this place of trauma. And what I want to tell people is like, it's good to sometimes go and get a reading when you like. I've had a load of readings recently. I feel like I'm in a great place at the moment. Do you know what I mean? And the readings have been like, oh, yeah, amazing. But I say when some of my friends are in bad places or they've got something going on, I'm like, sometimes go and have a reading, because it can give you that kick up the arse, or it can make you remember. So, oh yeah, do you know what? That's what I should be doing. Not that the person who's read you has forced you into doing that, but it just reminds you of something, and you're going, yeah, that feels right. That's what I should have done. Why have I forgotten that? Do you know what I mean?
I'm really glad that you like you find a lot of empowerment in these kind of readings, because I really believe in my work, and I believe that this is the way I'm supposed to go. And I see this as quite an old craft.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't one of those new fandangles.
It's ancient, isn't it?
This is ancient, you know, using the cards, using the crystal ball, using the scrying, being a seer, being an oracle, being a white witch, whatever you want to call it. I see that as like, it's old school. You know, there's so many modalities around now which are all are very viable, and they've all got value. But sometimes I feel like I'm not on that trendy wave of the latest shamanic, and don't get me wrong, shamanic work obviously goes back thousands of years as well, but there's so many different things, and I think sometimes people might have an impression of this kind of work of whoever's reading for you is kind of taking your power away by saying, well, this is what the card says and this is what your future is. I just want to get it across that my work particularly, and I know a lot of very, very good readers out there, they always make it about that basically the client, the other person, is the one that's attracting. They're attracting their own energy to reflect back at them what they can't see. When you're in a fog of despair, when you're in a really dark space, you can't always see where the clarity is. You can't see, and that's why you come and step forward into a space like this. So it's not about an oracle saying, oh, well, this is what's going to happen and you're going to get married then and da-da-da-da-da. Some people are looking for quite specific things, but it's about the empowerment of that person and the law of attraction, because it's the law of attraction that will guide you to the cards that will give you the best possible guidance. So it's just to get that point across really about the work, that I think sometimes, whether that's just my own little bit of cloudiness about what other people might think.
But it
could be, because it's not necessarily like it's quite old school, and some people might think, oh well, it's a bit, you're telling people what to do through the cards and you're using that cards as a tool. But the cards are a great tool in the fact that people who don't know anything about them can pick up colours, they can pick up messages, they can pick up inspiration, and that's what it's about. It's inspiring the spirit to move forward and to be positive and to get the best possible outcome. And you know, you need quite a skillful person to be able to read that and you know, pick up the energy of the person to intermingle it, so the person gets a good sort of picture of what's possible. But that person needs to know that it's their empowerment. It's not me doing anything. Really, just holding space.
Like for me, with stuff like, you know, reading, with working with energy, with using intuition, because the mainstream, it's like we're so disconnected from that. We're so disconnected from nature. Like it's kind of poo-pooed, isn't it? It's like, you know, people in the Amazon who are talking to trees, or trackers, Native American trackers who know, you know, they've got an 8-mile radius they know everything that's moving everywhere. They can tell what animal has been all over this expanse of forest in the last 4 or 5 days. Like, they know that shit. That to us feels like that's a load of bollocks, that's not possible. But these people are doing that, and that's not magic. That's
so
just
in
like,
tune.
well, and yeah, they're so in tune, and they're trained in it. Like,
Yeah.
they train in tracking. The Native American Indians would train as a tracker for like 4 years solid,
Wow.
like just out there. There's a beautiful book called Grandfather by a guy called Dan Brown, and it talks about his journey. And this grandfather was born into a reservation, and fortunately, his reservation, they still moved around, so they weren't stuck. They could roam, and he then went on like a basically he went on a few things where he learned all the skills that he was supposed to learn. They realized he was the chosen one. He had all the kind of connection to the elders, connection to the spirit world,
Wow.
and his mission was, okay, now you go walking for 60 years. He went walking for 60 years. He went, but learning everything. And then, like, these cities in that time had popped up, and he ended up, like, living as a tramp in Chicago for a while, went into Alaska, went up as far as, like, northern Canada, walked to the fucking Amazon, like, from North
God's
America,
sake.
like, all the way through Mexico. Just, he knew how to track, knew how to avoid cities, knew how to, like, avoid detection when he was in the US. But yeah, and ended up with these tribes that he wasn't connected to, but ended up going and learning so much from.
Wow, what a life.
And then, fortunately, he was scared to death that he wasn't going to pass on any of these things. And this Dan, I don't know if it's Dan Brown. Dan Brown's a bloody, did the spirit, what's that book?
Angels and Demons.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Da Vinci
Ron
Code.
Brown. It's Ron Brown.
Right, Ron
Pretty
Brown.
sure if it's not Ron Brown, I'll put it in the show notes. But this book is phenomenal. But just that connection to nature, that connection of, he made himself vulnerable,
Yeah.
and he almost died quite a few times,
Wow.
by testing himself, talking to rocks, talking to the desert, talking to trees, connecting with the spirit of a tree. And the same is going on when people are reading people. We're connecting to energy, we're connecting to a spirit.
100%.
And our society is so disconnected to that we think it's absolute bullshit.
Well, do you know how long it took me to actually admit to anyone that I did this? I'm in the school playground talking to the mums, and what do you do? And it's not, people might find it curious, and they can be polite about it. But I remember when I started to putting my cards out and giving people my cards, and even putting things on Facebook about this, it's like you open yourself up. It's like, who is this? What does she do? And is she weird? And, does she read people's minds? Because I better not think anything bad around her. I've often thought, do people think, could it put friendships off? But then I think, well, it's, are those the kind of friendships that I'd want anyway?
Yeah.
So,
hopefully it does put them ones off.
And, it's not an easy ride, because you can get one little thing wrong and you could be slated for it, and you could get 90% of it right.
Yeah.
It's a real, it's not through choice.
Yeah.
It's not through choice in a way. I love it. But it's you're on front line.
Your
you're on
hand's
the
kind
front
of
line.
forced, though, isn't it? You've not chosen that path. It's just like something that, it's not like one day you wake up and you go, "What? Do you know what? I fancy going into hair and beauty." You don't wake up and go, "Oh, do you know what? I fancy. I think I might learn how to be a clairvoyant."
A lot of the time, when people come into the room and come into the space for anything like this, they just want to be listened to.
Yeah.
And they want to be in a loving space, and I guess that's the bottom line. There's no bells and whistles and people doing backflips or anything like that. This is down to earth, loving, heartfelt energy where they can feel safe and they can feel like somebody's listening. And of course, there's energetic things going on. But, you just create that space where they feel they might not be getting listened to at home. They might not have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
But they're getting their life sort of like looked at.
Yeah.
And they're getting some guidance, and it's
just
very
like
simple.
speed therapy, innit? It's like,
very
it's like once you don't usually when you go and see like a psychic, it's something you might go and see someone once, twice a year.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's so like, I think it is like often a kick up the arse. Like it's speed therapy. It's like, okay, boom, 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 boom. Shit, yeah. All right, I'll go.
Look at what we've just done with
exactly,
you. That doesn't necessarily need to be looked at again.
Yeah.
You can work really fast with the energy.
Yeah.
When it's meant to work, and when it's meant to happen, and when it's meant to clear, or you're meant to receive, it will just drop in.
Mm.
There's no like, oh, let's just drag this out for 6 weeks and get all
Let's
the
get
money we
6
can out of
sessions
people.
out of it, yeah.
You know, let's get £100 a session and make sure you've got to book in for the next 6 weeks. There's none of that.
Yeah.
It's an authentic space of like, listen, if we can do this all in 2 hours, let's just do it.
Yeah, smash it out, yeah.
Yeah, 100 years of karma gone.
Yeah. Boom. How does it work then? Like, say someone comes in for a reading. How do you set yourself up? How do you do you intuitively choose in that moment what you're going to do, or have you got like a little plan before the person comes in?
Right, it's a really good question. When somebody books a reading with me, I usually explain that it's about 2 hours, the session. It's kind of developed into that over time. I've realised that for someone to come in and have a 2-hour session, which involves the card reading, some meditation, and the energy healing, that's a great way of just doing everything in one evening.
Yeah.
If it takes 2.5 hours, fine. If it takes 3, I never charge any more. It is what it is. I let the energy do what it's got to do. But basically, as soon as somebody books in, and I've explained that, very often, even if it's a week before the reading, I can get insights. I can get things dropping in about that person. I just make a mental note. I might even feed back to them during the week if there's something significant that crops up. Like, I've worked with people, and before they went back to they lived at a distance, and before they went back to where they lived, they needed to take different energy back with them. And so at a distance, I was able to give them distance attunement.
Right.
Spirit said to me, oh, you've got to give them a diamond light attunement. And I was like, really?
Yeah. Trying to make me tea.
Oh, do you mind? So sometimes it's been very, very intense where spirits, I'm actually guided to communicate again with the client before they've even turned up. I have to follow my instructions.
Yeah.
If I'm told anything, either during the healing or before the healing, if things drop in, I have to trust it. And I do trust it implicitly. And I explain to the client, look, I know this is a little intense. It might seem intense for you, but there's clearly some intense healing that needs to occur. Can you do this, this and this? Or can you sit quietly at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning? Because this is going to be integrated if you give permission for it. There's always that respectful space that's, you have to ask that the person is okay for that to happen. But basically, yes, so before people even turn up, there can be information that's coming to me, and I will relay it back to them.
Yeah.
Once they actually do turn up, I have a generic plan now, but obviously it's all open to the energy once the person walks in. But basically, there's a set where we have a cup of tea for about 20 minutes, half an hour. People generally have a chat about what's going on in their life. I don't wish for anyone to have to give anything away. It's not like a test. If they want to tell me anything, they can. They don't have to.
I love it when I go for a reading, though. I'm always, at the beginning, I'm not going to tell her anything.
I want to know what you know about me.
Yep. I'm not going to tell her nothing. I'm going to wear a different costume so she can't guess anything.
And I always say, look, you don't have to tell me anything. Let's take the pressure off. It's really not necessary, because whatever comes through spirit and through your permission, whatever comes through is meant to be.
Yeah.
And we will only get given what we're supposed to know in that moment.
Yeah, and
I'm not in control.
Yeah, but us mere mortals, unlike yourself, we're getting confused that you can pick up stuff and shit off our clothes when it's like, it's our soul. Our soul doesn't have an outfit. Do you know what I mean? Our soul just is an energy, like, it doesn't matter what we're wearing, but we still forget. We try and fool you.
Well, there's been plenty of those little red flags. But, not that many, actually. There's been one or two that have kind of tried to be a little bit clever, but, I don't take it to heart. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So we'll have a cup of coffee for tea for half an hour. Then we'll do a little meditation to tune into the energy. I will guide the client through meditation. I'll also join in with that. Then, because we're in that beautiful bubble of energy then, where the brain waves slow down, the body becomes more relaxed, everything's feeling much more peaceful. The person has left all those outside worldly stuff, it's outside the door, and you this is your sacred space to be completely. This is your time. This might be the only time this person's had all week to like sit with a cup of coffee. People living such frantic lives, and it's really important that they're paying, they're paying for this time, but it's used in the utmost respectful and sacred way. So I describe the sacred space to them. Once we've come through the meditation and they're in that beautiful bubble of loving energy, which they've helped create, that's a perfect time to then bring the cards forward, because that person's very relaxed. The law of attraction's at its height, because they're ready to go forward and see what's coming up for them. And we do some cards. Very often I will say, well, which cards do you feel like you'd like to use tonight? Or a pack of cards will jump out at me and say, yeah, this is the right one. And then whatever the guidance is through the cards, we then have another little chat about whatever that person feels they're ready to release. We have many things that build up in our field of energy, stress, situations, relationships which might not be working too well, and things like that, and residual energies from things from the past. So it's very much a case of bringing their awareness into, well, what do you feel that you're ready to release? And then also asking spirit to be involved in that process as well. Once the client then gets onto the healing bed, the energy speaks. Nobody has to do any talking. Energy speaks and does its work. And sometimes I'm shown things about that person, either places they've been or things that are very important to them in their life. Whatever comes through, whether it's through pictures or words or feelings that I get, then I always relay that back, in a gentle way while they're lying there. And they just get to hear about what's being fed back. It's better than waiting till the end and then spilling out a load of information. And that's the way it works, really. And then they can walk away feeling a lot lighter, like they're recharged. I always make sure they know to drink plenty of water, some good water for the next few days, trusting that it's all part of the process and that they're actually on a bit of a healing path then. Some people come here and they've never had any healing before whatsoever. They've never had the cards read, and they can go away and they're like full of energy, and then they'll ring me the next day and say, I was up in the night and I was screaming and was crying, and then it's the aftercare.
It's not wanting to blame you.
It's the aftercare, and I think the aftercare is so important. I've been to healers who you couldn't get hold of them if you wanted to 3 days later if anything was going on. I always make sure that any of my clients, they are aware that they can feed back to me and say, oh, this has happened, what do you think about this? Because there can be such thing as what's called a healing crisis, and it can come out of nowhere. It can come at the middle of the night, because suddenly the body is catching up with what's happened on an energy level, and it's time to release. And it can be all sorts of messy sort of
all sorts of messy,
but they just need to know they've got a backup.
Just go to the doctor, because what happened in my healing thing is that I'm making a mess everywhere, and these things pouring out of me, and I don't really understand it. Well, James, have some paracetamol.
And I recommend you don't go and see any witches anymore. It's not good. When you have any attunements, as a healer, after my attunements, the people who trained me made sure that I knew that it was 28 days that I would be going through. Your body starts to release toxins that are not needed anymore. It starts to you could start receiving spiritual downloads. Some people, they receive such spiritual awakening so fast that they can end up in psychiatric wards. You don't want any of your clients to be put in those kind of positions. So it's about offering that aftercare.
That can happen in yoga as well. Like when you get a Kundalini awakening, you can just have this mad spiritual crisis. Like so many people that I know have gone on yoga retreats and had stuff like that happen to them. And like I've had it happen to me when
And
I
were
was
you
when I was first.
supported when you?
I was lucky that I was. It's in my book actually. I was with a Hare Krishna at the time. I didn't really know what was going on, but I was just like having these mad episodes of could not stop crying after I practiced. I was just like, what's going on? And he was there and he was doing blessings on me and stuff. So I was blessed in that way. Sometimes people don't have that support, and it can lead to psychiatric problems.
Yeah, I mean,
because we don't understand it.
it's a responsibility.
Because you do when you're doing yoga and you start moving energy, sometimes it can really shift, unblock something, and it's just like boom, your whole kind of chakra system opens, and your crown and your third eye is just like expanding, and it's like all this energy then coming in, and it's just like whoa, that's a lot to take in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to quite an extreme.
Yeah, and the more this is becoming spoken about, not kind of underground, the more people are gonna be aware and understand. And like there's a book that I read called Gopi Krishna, and he's all about the more research into Kundalini rising, because he's just a peasant boy from India, and he's writing multitude of books, poems, and he's like, where does this come from? He has this innate intelligence that he was never taught, and it's all come from his Kundalini rising, his Kundalini awakening. So if he's just demanding more research into it. How do we get everyone's Kundalini awake so that everyone's like glowing and full power? Do you know what I mean? Like what we're using 3%, 4% of our brains. Imagine if we could tap
11%,
into.
But that's still very low.
Yeah, it's still whatever it is. It's low, and there's still at least 89% of unused brain capacity. So imagine if we just like added another 3%, what we'd be capable of.
I think there's people trying all sorts of methods of expanding their consciousness, isn't there? Yeah. All sorts of plant medicines, or other methods, other substances.
Yeah.
I think crystals can certainly. Crystals are so I think crystals are so underrated. I think what they're actually capable of doing for the human experience. I've used crystals and my third eye is completely blown open. And I've had guides in the room. I've had messages whispered through. It's all sorts of things have happened just by using crystals. Yeah. So I recommend that people experiment with using crystals for third eye activation, because it's safe. It's safe, as long as you hold that safe space and know what you're doing with the sacred space, bless the space. Then it is. And
third eye activation, is that your intuition, your inner
intuition,
eye.
Your pineal
inner
gland, your inner knowing. I mean, I kind of take it for granted a little bit, really, because I can access it. And sometimes I think, no wonder people sometimes I'm in the coffee shop and I'm talking about my third eye activation, and it's just innate, isn't it? Some of us do talk that way. We're not trying to be pretentious or I'm so
my
spiritual.
My
third
eye
new
is
age.
Blossoming at the moment.
Yes, and
totally.
It's just I'm just kind of just come out with these things sometimes, and it's a bit like, oh my God, did I just say that? But there are things around us all the time that can offer enlightenment, like lying on the ground under a tree and grounding through that beautiful energy, that you get from the earth.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in places like, sacred centres, I always find Alderley Edge an amazing place to go walking up there, and had some incredible meditation, done some work up there, which has been brilliant. Put yourself in places where you feel at peace. I think that's the first starting point.
Yeah. It's about finding where your energy band feels comfortable, what space, what area, what place, where do you resonate with?
And which people you resonate with.
Yeah, your tribe, innit?
Definitely about tribe.
Finding your tribe. And where we met, you can quite openly talk about third eye activation, can't you?
Yes, and isn't that refreshing? It's so refreshing.
Yeah. Well, it needs to be infusing into these normal societal jobs and and careers and industries, and it is. And I've got a guest coming on the show soon, called Gemma Lebert Martin, and she's a headhunter, and I just want to get her story about. She's a yogi, man, but she's working in this really super corporate world. Wow. And how she handles that. Do you know what I mean? And how can she be yourself and still kind of resonate as a yogi, but stay in that, because a lot of us think we have to, I'm spiritual now, I'm not in the corporate world, I'm going to go and tie-dye stuff or make a, make a, like,
that would be too easy,
make
wouldn't
t-shirts from the menstrual blood of indigenous women, you know what I mean, like something like that. But we can still operate in that, and that being able to operate in those industries, in the corporate world, she has a positive influence on so many
really
people
good.
around her, because they're like, oh, so you eat what? You do what? You go walking where? What's this? What's the yoga practice that you do? Or how do you think about that? Why do you not get angry in that situation? So it's a wonderful, wonderful way
Beautiful ripple effect.
Yeah, and because like a lot of us, you go on a path and you go, I'm gonna go and live in Portugal away from everyone. But who are you influencing there? What like sometimes you're not. When you, I can't get away from Manchester, man. I come back here all the time.
What did it say in your reading? What did it say in your reading?
She really upset me. She said I'm always gonna I'm gonna have a mansion in Manchester, and I'm gonna be stuck here forever. No,
Manchester mansion.
No. I'm cool with having a place in Manchester. Like, I love Manchester. I love my family, and I love my community family, my spiritual family, the people that I resonate with, the people that I chill with. But I still have to have a base. But I still have to know that I can disappear, because I can't be in the city for too long. But yeah, it's not. It's just that everyone says that, and I'm like, oh, why can't I go and live by that lake or by the sea? Like, I love being by the water, but maybe Manchester's always going to be my base.
Well, I think it's about being in two worlds all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have got our foot in two worlds, and I think being out there doing the frontline work with, spreading the light into wherever we're guided. It's not even having any assumptions about where it's going to be.
Do you feel that, because obviously we're at a really blessed time in humanity, if you think about, how many hundreds of years ago would you have been killed, like in the witch hunts? When were the witch hunts?
Oh. Do you know, I don't know the exact dates.
But if them laws were still the same now, you'd be in the queue, wouldn't you? You'd be getting marched up to Lancaster to be thrown off the side of that castle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would I. Yoga.
Sometimes people's faces when do you ever get reactions when you say you do yoga?
Off Catholics, yeah.
You do?
That's a cult. That's the work of the devil, they tell me. Yeah. Some old people. I'm like, I don't know if this yoga. I'm not going to go into this, but yeah, you know what happened.
Wow.
Watch Spotlight. That tells you all about what happens in the Catholic world.
Do you know what's so interesting about, like, when I think people might be thinking these things about me?
Yeah.
I always think to myself, if they are thinking those things about me and I see them, say, in the school playground or around Sale, they probably, as soon as they see me, they might probably stop thinking about it, because they might think that I'm reading their brain anyway.
Yeah.
So I've kind of got my own defense mechanism. It's already inbuilt. It's like, if they were thinking anything really shoddy about me, and like, oh, there's the weird one or whatever, then they're going to cut that. They're only going to give me smiles, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not going to let anything be given away.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to read them anyway.
Yeah.
That's one of the gifts, One of the gifts is that you can pick up on energy, and you don't. I never deliberately go and tune in.
No, but
I never think,
anyone can
he's
pick
really
up
fit. I wonder if he likes me. I'm going to read his brain and just see whether I've got any chance.
But you can pick up an energy from that anyway. Body language, you know what I mean? That's all reading. You're reading people's body language. When I was out pulling women, I knew. Like when I was out clubbing, and a girl come near me, and I looked at her, and she looked at me, and then she did her hair, and I was like, boom, I'm in. That's I was total. It's just body language,
But I guess at this level, there's like, you don't know what people's perceptions are of you.
What's wrong with my level in the nightclub when I'm
I
on ecstasy?
don't mean
Are you
that.
poo-pooing my ecstasy levels?
I think you're probably very, very good at guessing who fancies you or not. I think you probably have plenty of experience. Yeah. I'm quite good at being
mine's just bass. Mine's bass, of course. It's bass.
It's interesting. some of the greatest souls, the ones that the humblest souls. You know, the ones that you see sitting around on the street corners. Some great souls.
Yeah, some of them have such wise things to tell you and say, and just sometimes you think they're rambling. You're like, actually, there's some wisdom in that. There's something to learn from that, you know.
Because they're just observing, aren't they, all day?
Yeah.
And when we say they, I mean like the homeless community.
Yeah.
Or the down and outs.
Not even that. Sometimes just like a village character.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're like, he just does weird shit. I think my dad would probably classify it as one of those. Like, yeah, because you'll often find him in a skip. Why are you playing with your hair? She's playing with her hair, ladies and gentlemen.
So not.
It's a sign. It's a sign.
I am so.
It's a sign.
So
Look,
not.
You can even see it on YouTube. Look, she's playing with her hair.
I'm playing with. Oh my god! I just played.
You played with your hair. Shit, man. This is on.
No. Professional misconduct.
So, Andrea Joy Adams. I wish he was still called Andrea Joy Ryder. That'd be amazing. I'd just love that. I could say it over and over again.
Good, isn't it?
It's great. It's great. It's just like, yeah, it would have made my day. But why did you have to get married again and ruin that?
I know.
So yeah, how can my listeners, if they wanted a reading, if they wanted to have some work, have a session with you, how would they get in touch with you, my dear?
They could follow me on Instagram.
What's your name on Instagram?
Andrea Joy Adams.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I often do little daily readings. I do little cards, sometimes a bit of inspiration.
Yeah.
On there, so they can message me on there.
It's a beautiful space. Like I'm in Andrea's house now, and it's lovely. It's kind of like almost going into like a little witch's cave, and all the beautiful paintings are around the room of orbs, and it's like a Klimt picture, and I really love Klimt. It's Klimt in it.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to go to the gallery in Vienna, but yeah, it's a beautiful space. It feels really like energetically pure. So yeah, you'd be looked after if you come along and see her.
Oh, thank you. Well, I do like to offer a very nurturing energy for people, because I think, you know, people leave everything outside the front door, be in your own space. It's very precious to have your own time and to just investigate your own spiritual path.
Yeah.
Lots of people are waking up to this now, and if I can assist and empower in any way, then I'll be really happy. I feel that this is my role.
Yeah.
And believe me, every single client that I ever have brings something amazing to me also. And very often, you know, I have a lot of very deep healing that happens because there's been a lot of soulmate energy. There's been a lot of connected energy. And, you know, I do connect on a oneness level. I know that sounds a little bit out there, but I do feel the more that I work with people, the more it develops me.
Yeah.
So there's not like me particularly doing anything except holding space and bringing love into the space.
Yeah.
Making people feel loved and cherished and cared for, and
that's what everyone wants.
Ready to fly off into their journey. Yeah, we do. It's like filling in the little gaps, even if people don't have to say what their situations are, because energy knows, and energy flows where energy knows. It goes where it flows. So I would definitely welcome anyone that wants to step forward and be in the space with me. Yeah. And
so hit her up on Instagram, Andrea Joy Adams. She'll respond. I was going to say immediately then. So hit her up on Facebook, Andrea Joy Adams. She'd love you to get in touch and check out what she's up to. She's doing amazing work, empowering lots and lots of humans to be a best version of themselves, which is kind of what like the yoga path is about as well. Just like trying to get people to shine brightly, to be that lotus, to be, you know, amazing humans, to be epic human beings. So thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. Thank you for feeding me soup, and you're going to feed me some more in a minute, I hope.
Yes,
if there's any left.
We're going to heat that up in
that
the pan.
Would be epic.
I'm so happy to be able to know what my role is now, and to keep walking forward into that, whatever the journey is, the next step for me.
Yeah, nice one.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Full power. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for having me in your beautiful home. And yeah, looking forward to the little bit of soup.
Should we let the cats back
a beautiful week. Yeah, let's let the cats back in. All right, lots of love.
Okay, thank you.
Peace.
Thank you, Liam.
Mwah.
Peace. Mwah.
Bye.
My energy feels your vibe. 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 My energy feels your energy. My vibe feels your vibe.
Yes, that was a lovely conversation. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you for kind of going to them little kind of places that we kind of a little bit uncomfortable, and talking about family and talking about relationships and like healings and stuff that you've had to go through. I know it's kind of difficult, and sometimes we're a bit kind of like jittery about sharing those kind of things, but it's always better to have it out and for it to be open, for us to all be transparent with what we do. People are always saying to me, why are you so honest, like in your book? Why do you kind of, like, well, what am I going to do? Just make stuff up? Like, yeah, I make stuff up when I'm bullshitting people and when I'm just making people laugh, but you know, they know I'm making stuff up, and I like making stuff up. But when it's a kind of, it's a biography almost, it's like, why would I make stuff up? I just want to be transparent. I'm not calling anybody in my book. I'm not having a go at anybody. I'm just telling it how it was and how I felt at the time. People can write their version of it, and it might be totally different, and then we can go to a jury and we can ask all the people who knew about it, and they can kind of, you know, lay down the law on what is the truth, because there's so many versions of the truth. So yeah, we kind of just want to all step into our truth to keep our integrity, to be able to keep people's kind of faith in us, really, for us to be dependable, for people to look up to us. You know, you've got it's a difficult one, man, because you like become a contradiction, like especially when you kind of walk in this yogic path. People expect a lot more of you for some reason than they would of a normal person. But, you know, they are the laws of yoga. We are supposed to tell the truth. We're not supposed to steal. We're not supposed to eat meat. It's kind of like, yeah, there are things that I really, really try hard, you know, to stick with. Really, really try hard to stick with, you know. Truthfulness, not stealing, like even being on the train and going, oh, I've got on this train and I've not paid, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get away with it, and then I'm like, no, Brown, no, like go and pay for the fucking train journey now. I'm quite stern with myself when when the old Liam comes back and he's like, nah, we get away with it, and it's just like, no, pay for what you are using, for any services that you're getting, and be grateful, kind of pay with gratitude. That's what another thing that the Deepak Chopra 21 Days of Abundance is. It's like, yeah, write on your receipts, thank you, and this will return to me times 7. Yeah, this, whatever I invest will return to me times 7. So just be like, when you're buying something that's really expensive now, go, yes man, this is going to return to me times 7, gangster. Like, it's just incredible. So like, buy things that are expensive, because if you have that real faith and that real kind of vision and determination that the things will return to us times 7, then they definitely will. That's just kind of the way that energy works, the way that kind of the mind works. It's like you can just convince yourself. Like I'm convincing myself at the moment that I'm driving a Tesla. Like I want to drive a Tesla, man. I want to own a Tesla one day. Why can I not have that dream? They're a sick car. Like, I love Nikola's Tesla. The guy was just a genius. And you know, if we were allowed to use his kind of scientific findings, we'd all be, you know, have free energy all over the world, and kind of would eradicate so much poverty. But unfortunately, we live in a world where people don't let those kind of things out, because they want to make lots of money and make sure that we're all kind of like dependent on them and still feeding them with our pounds. But yes, get into this. Just get into the mindset of abundance, man. Like, it's an abundant universe. Everything's limitless. We can do and be whatever we want. And so, Andrea, as shown in the podcast today, thanks for sharing everything. Like, it takes a lot of bravery to kind of become a psychic, to kind of step into the healing world. I know from personal experience, but obviously from her story, she kind of knew she had a gift early on, and fair play to her. I know a lot of people who kind of just keep their gifts hidden, and that's what we're trying to do on the show, is like get you to unearth your gifts, get you to unearth your beauty, and just shine brightly. And that's what we're doing at these yoga raves. So yeah, hit us up on Yoga Rave 2020 on Instagram, on Facebook. If you can get to one of the raves, the next yoga rave is on the 28th of February. It's for my birthday, so it's pretty special. It's at Space in the Mill studio in the centre of Manchester, just off Deansgate. It's a beautiful, beautiful space, and it's going to be amazing because it's in the dark, and like everyone's going to be in neon paints, and people are going to be getting their face painted. So everything that's neon is going to glow up in the dark. It's going to look fantastic. We're going to get some amazing pictures, some amazing photographs, and just some amazing kind of experiences for everybody. Just the community vibe and the energy of just everybody letting go and dancing. So basically what happens at the raves is I have a live DJ. We play banging rave, house music, drum and bass, techno, kind of electronic, electro, minimal, whatever will just get you bouncing, get you raving. I dropped like the Nancy Sinatra Audio Bullies track at the one that I did in Warrington last week, and they just were scatting, like the kids were just going mental. I was like, I wonder if they've ever even heard that song before. But yeah, just like bit of Prodigy, bit of everything really. So this, these are the 90s kind of rave anthems that we're putting on. So there's a bit of everything, but you will not be able to stop your hips moving, little handshakes, and then it's just, there's quite a dynamic yoga flow in there, but it's all about enjoyment, letting loose, kind of getting rid of your inhibitions, and being able to shine forth and leave with a massive glow and smile on your face. So that's what we're doing. If you want us to come and do a yoga rave near you, I've just been booked to do a couple in a studio in Preston, a studio in Bolton, Try Yoga in Preston, and I think it's the Mill in Bolton. So I've got a couple of events going on there. You can also look at all my events. I've got a cacao ceremony on the 15th of March, Sunday the 15th, which is in Heaton Moor in Manchester. So if you want to come along to that, the ticket is on my website, liambrown.com. Just go over to the little events tab and you can book on right there. I just spent like a whole day of my life setting that up, but it was torture. Someone could have probably done it in like 4 minutes. And I was just like, no, I'm going to figure this out. And I actually just wanted to put a knife through my head at the end of the day. And then the next day I was like, I hadn't finished it, and I just got up at 4 a.m. and I was just like, right, I'm going to finish this now. I know what I want. I know what I need to do. So yes, I now have an events page where you can actually pay me on my website, which is like, yes! Oh, one day I will have somebody who just does all this stuff for me, and I can just talk to you, and I can just teach, and I can write, and I don't have to do any of this technical stuff. One day. That's what I'm manifesting. That's what I'm trying to get through the 21 days of abundance. Big up to Veronica Katsatashvili, who's been doing some life coaching with me. She's on one of my earlier podcasts if you want to have a little listen to that. I'm going to shut up now. I hope you all have a beautiful week. Please check out any previous episodes you've not yet listened to. Lewis Powell, Win Carter, Stuart Pilkinson, Greg Garrett, some amazing Gina Swire, Matt Ryan, just amazing kind of knowledgeable people you'll enjoy listening to, whatever you're doing in your car. I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful week, a beautiful day, and I'll check you guys soon. Take it easy. Peace. Booyah!
Need you to bless. Need you to bless my soul.
Thank you so much for listening to the Deal is a Healer podcast. Please stay tuned for more episodes of transformation, of metamorphosis, of people becoming the most beautiful version of themselves, and teaching you, the listeners, how to become the most beautiful version of yourself. So if you want all that information, all that knowledge, all these amazing guests that I've got on my show, please subscribe. There's a subscribe button somewhere on this screen, so please just link onto that. You'll get a notification straight away of any new episodes, and I promise you I've got epic guests coming up, so please stay tuned. If you want to know anything else about the Dealer to Healer movement, of what I've got going on, about my links to the book, links to my website, links to my music, everything, please go in the description below. It's just down there somewhere. You just hit description and everything, it'll tell you everything. So nice one, have a beautiful day, take it easy, and remember, please subscribe, that would be amazing. Peace.